welcome everyone. I entitled this slide Forward to Nature instead of Back to Nature, which is the kind of classical meme that is being used in the regenerative community. I really want to talk about this today because I think it's very important to include technologies in the futures, because technology are going to be able to help us into the massive amount of work that is required to regenerate the planet and our system. So this comes from, I'd like to start with some quotes from Bill Morrison, that we need to design sustainable human settlements that are actually an extension of natural system, and also that we all need the fundamental freedom to choose which economic system we want to participate in. Now, if we talk about the sustainable human settlement, the classic idea of this sort of island where we are sustainable, but it's a sustainable island where we actually see the food being grown locally and maybe some kind of green renewable energy, but it's still an island. And if you actually look, then if you zoom out and you look at the context, you realize that actually we're more in a situation like this where there is a kind of a destructive system all around us, and it's not going to be enough if just a few people decide to be sustainable. So how do we go about it? I believe that we need to kind of connect all these dots or pockets of sustainability into a network of regenerative hubs, but not only a network of regenerative hubs, but an ecosystem of hubs. And if you look at permaculture as a framework that studies ecosystem and is able to regenerate the ecosystem, we need to look where we're really trying to, and how does it do that, is looking at every element of the system and putting it together in forms of relation and functions, and tries to basically create this kind of regenerative loops. So what we're trying to create is, based on this kind of principle, a global network. That means like a local and global network of interdependent. It means that we need each other. So there is not just we know about each other, we need each other. Individuals, communities, and projects that are focusing on integral regeneration. So what is integral regeneration? Is not just regenerating soil. It's really about regenerating the interior and the exterior of both the individual and the collective. So if you have an initiative that is actually based on any of these quadrants, or even covering multiple of these quadrants, then you should be able to be weaved into a network which is actually able to support you beyond what you can achieve on yourself, on your island. So for ourselves, we're now looking at Italy and the center of Italy, and that's where our project and network is being kickstarted. And here we started 4 years ago with the Liminal village, which is it's a place of transition from the system where we are to whatever is coming next. And it's actually an experimental ground where we invite people, temporary communities, to come together and really design by themselves what it is, how to live with each other, and what kind of technology do we want to use, what kind of social technologies do we adopt to relate to each other. And what we use is the lunation protocol, which is almost like a progress bar. You use the moon as a progress bar in the sky, that basically we time arrivals and departure around new moon, and then there's kind of using the fourth phase to time the collaboration. And if anybody else in the network uses the same protocol, then we would have like an alignment, and we can sync up and showcase to each other what we're up to and what we're doing at the right time. And what we do, we ask the people that come to focus on being integral. So gifting something to themselves, personal growth, gifting something to the local, by giving a workshop, by helping out in whatever there is to do, and the global aspect. So gift something for everybody else that is beyond your local immediate surrounding. And so what we do in that case is we actually develop technologies. This is software technology, digital technologies, to create computer-aided communities. So communities that are aided by computers. We can't expect an app or a technology to actually replace the immediacy of a human interaction. So we believe, and we figured out actually pretty early, that the perfect community does not need anything. It just needs, in terms of digital technology, but is more of a social technologies, ways that we agree to interact with each other. But for anything that goes beyond, then that's where digital technology really plays a role. We don't only research and develop software, but also we're looking at hardware. So on the left is a food machine, the FarmBot, open source. It means you can do it at home if you have the tools. And also on the right side is our own design of a water purification system that you can do with scrap material you can find around your house. And also other low-tech and high-tech situations like Nordic gardening we're exploring with, or constructing a biolake that is basically ecosystem that you can just create everywhere that purifies the water and invites all kinds of different life forms in there. So what the point about all these technologies is that we're looking for ways to solve the first two layers of the Maslow pyramid. That's what you need the money for, so that then we can focus on the other three layers. That's what you need the community for. So, and once you get out that need for looking on how you're going to survive, then we're going to be able to really, truly focus on pro-social and pro-planet initiative. So here is Liminal Village as our zone 0. Of course, we're looking at our bioregion. So we have in our zone 1 created a kindergarten that is to crowdfunded with 20 other families. And now we're in that place, we're bringing our kids every day. So what we're doing is we're stacking a function as in an ecosystem. And the function is is a food cooperative. So now when you bring in your kid, you can choose to go back home with the crate of veggies. And not only that, veggies, but also like the full production of grain, flour and pasta. So all the things that you would go to a supermarket. And now all of a sudden, this is also becoming our supermarket, and 20 families don't have to go to supermarket anymore. Then in our zone 2, we are creating a village of service, and this is really something that is a big project. It's a brick factory in the quarry that we bought about a year ago, and the objective is to use technology to solve also that need for a cheap, economic, and well-insulated, sustainable house. And this is using basically a 3D printing technologies to print houses using locally sourced material of clay and rice waste product. And we're able to actually create these houses in about a week time. And the idea we have with that great brick factory, we have about 6,000 cubic meters, so we can really create a small village that is based on these technologies. And the purpose of this village is to then become a center of production for the regenerative network. You can see here it's 2 pieces of a 4-piece technology that is able to basically plant in high density of organic food. And we can, of course, share the food that we produce with this really little amount of work, since there are machines that are doing the job. To share it with the network for cheaper than the supermarket, or even for free, while we can sell the organic produce outside to then finance all the activities of the network. So you can see how using technology can really catalyze the positive impact. On zone 3, which is a little bit further away, this is what people and initiatives that we visit on a monthly basis or monthly. We're also looking at initiatives that are taking care of specific aspects to create a network between them. So basically replicating our model on our zone tree, so that then they become their own zone 0, and they also become a tied network, so that then we are able to connect them into our village of services as their own zone 1. So this graph is really what I'm trying to convey here, is that it's all about not just a network, but how the different dots become an ecosystem, and they can help each other and support each other in a variety of ways. So this is a representation of how we create a node and discover nodes, and new node will discover nodes, and we will create this kind of tightly packed network where we can actually choose to use a different economic system. In zone 4, we have TDF and Crypto Commons Association that are also in this session, because we visit them last year. And the question is, of course, when you actually have a visitor that goes once a year, what can we do not as a network, but as an ecosystem? How can we help each other? What kind of mutual agreements can we have and can we establish one another to help each other kind of thrive and become part of this greater regenerative ecosystem? Zone 5, that's our the Region Civic Alliance that we're also part of together with TDF, where 13 eco-villages around the globe are actually looking at using Web3 technologies to crowd pool our resources and also crowdfund our initiatives as a conglomerate. Well, after zone 6, there is, of course, beyond zone 5, there is zone 6, and I think that that's the metaverse, where you're actually going to be able to find all the other initiatives and projects that are there and potentially value aligned, and that's very important. The alignment of our social DNA, or the shared values that are actually able to bring groups of initiatives together into an organism and then share basically the resources across them. And ultimately, I think that the Web3 has really the potential of becoming this base interoperability layer, a place where you have where you can basically store the information about what the needs are of the different places, so that then other places can come and help in any kind of ways, be something that they need on a social level or an ecological level in case of catastrophes and so on. And what we're working on is this Holonic Earth Operating System, which is a protocol so that we are going to be able to establish across all these different nodes with different DNA, to actually establish a semantic economy, an economy that is able to really kind of do every economic activity is then matched with the value of the network. And then you're able to really truly track the pro-social and pro-planetary contribution. And of course, the system is not just tracking financials, but all the 8 forms of capital that are all required to actually generate and regenerate. So if there are any hubs or anything that would like to invest into this regenerative network, any form of capital is very welcome. In fact, we're looking for people and hubs that are integral regenerators, that are really committed to regenerating all the 4 quadrants, and app creators and stewards, and the ones that would like to create new hubs and replicate our model into a different location around the planet and create their own zone 0, but also pollinators that are the ones that are coming between one and other zones and are cross-pollinating technologies and information and social technologies that we have. So if you are interested, you Game A investor or Game B investor, want to bring in real value into the network, just get in touch at regenerative.earth or liminalvillage.com. Thank you very much. I'll pass the ball.
Thanks, Robert. So, does anyone have any questions? We have a couple minutes for this. Okay, if not, we'll move on to B. Fonseca for TDF, Decentralized Co-Living Villages. Everyone else, if you have any questions, please throw them in chat or, oh, things on to us. Have you found cooperation from the institution at regional level? You're muted.
Yeah, I was looking for the button. I think there is a lot of humus around here of the initiatives of people that are actually saying, okay, we need to really make a change. It's easier to find the aligned people. We haven't at this stage kind of like have a lot of interaction with the local municipalities. But there is also a lot of funding coming from Europe that is being a disaster area with the earthquake. There's a lot of opportunities and so it's also kind of like automatically fertilized by by state funding to regenerate the area. So in a way, it's coming through that in that way. We have interaction, of course, with the local municipality for the kindergarten, which is very happy about the fact that there is something new being created, and but the support is not necessarily coming in terms of financial or other kind of support.
Thanks. B, over to you.
Thank you. Thank you, Roberto. Thank you. It was nice to see what you've been up to in some other way. And I'm here to present you all about the traditional Dream Factory. Many of you have been there. Roberto has been there. Bart has been there. Who else is here? Victor. Yeah, I've also talked with Kati before, and also Martin. So yeah, I mean, even before talking about traditional Dream Factory, I want to tell you about Oasa, because Oasa is really kind of the umbrella or the soil to the tree that the traditional Dream Factory is. So Oasa is a network of villages, of co-living, co-housing places that we're wanting to build, and the main thing that I would like you to keep from Oasa at the moment is that everything that is done within Oasa is really planet positive and regeneration at its core. So all of the models that you'll see and that will transform into TDF and to any other village that is under the umbrella of Oasa has got planet positivity and circularity at its core. And so from this network of regenerative villages that we're doing in Oasa, like also a very particular trait that we're having there is that we're using Web3 technology to find a way of powering and of making this dream come alive. And you'll get to know a little bit of how that looks like later on. And yeah, and the traditional Dream Factory that I'll from now on simply call TDF is really the first village of Oasa. And the idea is that TDF is a playground, is a prototype for us to really play and experiment and build our dreams, factorize the dreams that we have. And yeah, it's located in Portugal. It exists. And I guess I thought about starting this presentation first with my own dream. And this photo here, it's a photo of some of these people are really old friends of mine, dating from 5 to 10 years ago. And I've only started to work with TDF about 2 years ago. And it's interesting because before I met TDF, I was a bit generally sad in life. And I was generally sad because I had had a really nice upbringing, and especially like young transition to adulthood where I studied abroad and I traveled a lot and I did a lot of international travels. And I had friends all over the world, and I had like really, really meaningful living experiences and co-living experiences with them. It was with them that I really like found myself to a certain extent. And we're from everywhere. So like, okay, we lived together for some years, but then everyone has got their families, everyone has got their own life. So how are we going to ever like buy a land and live together? I knew at that point that was going to be really hard. And I was sad about it. And then I got to know TDF, and it was interesting because the model that we're creating for at TDF is really a model that caters for this. So if we look at, and Roberto was also mentioning it, you know, like all of these different zones in permaculture, like the first step of permaculture when we look at something is to see it as it is. And when we designed TDF in terms of like social design for people, we saw that many of us just like to move a lot. And it's really hard for us to commit to a piece of land 365 days a year. And so at TDF, we are indeed designing for people to come and go and to come and go and to still find a thriving regenerative ecosystem, both for the people, for the land, for the economy around it, in a way that accepts that. And this picture here, I think for me, it's especially meaningful because this is like friends from me, from my past before TDF Live, and all of them at TDF getting to know a little bit of like, oh, this is one way that we can actually still meet every year for 1 year, for 1 month at this place. And we can come here, stay here for 1 year, be with whatever is at TDF, and then go back and still have our independence and our autonomy and our personal projects. So yeah, so that's a little bit about me, and I guess it's pretty clear by now, but what I want to show you in this slide is that TDF is real, TDF is existing. It is an old chicken farm, so we've got 3 warehouses. You can see two here on the right. There's one more. We have, amongst many others, also a tree house that you can also see here, and it's operational. We have food together. We're there together. There's been several events. There's been several co-living situations. Like TDF is already operational, and we celebrated our 2nd anniversary this April. And TDF is there and it's alive, and this is a short presentation, and to just my story about TDF is like one of many, and this is a framework for all, let's say. And just to let you know a little bit about how we're building TDF. So basically we're designing TDF that its access is basically with a token. So if you are a member of TDF and if you've got TDF tokens, you'll book your stays at TDF with your tokens, and you'll get, if you want to stay at TDF 30 nights per year, you get 30 tokens. If you want to stay at TDF 60 nights per year, you get 60 tokens. And then what you do is that every year you use these tokens to stay, and this stay costs 0. And how do we calculate the price of this token is that we calculated basically the entire cost of the project, and then we distributed the cost of the project per the amount of tokens available. And so in this way, we found a way of also like crowdsourcing the entire purchase of the land and the legal and the construction and the operations and everything. And yeah, crowdsourcing it for also like how much people want to contribute, and allowing people to contribute as much as they want to stay and as much as they can. Next to the token, also like a super interesting thing about TDF, and that I also really like, is that, you know, it's not only about the fact that you can come and go, but that you can also, like, through coming and going, you also get a say or get the opportunity to influence how TDF is done in accordance to how present you are, how present you are. So TDF is going to be governed by a DAO. I think there's also a process of building the entire setup, and basically what we do is that we collect how much time you stay at TDF, how much sweat you give to TDF, so how much are you actually involved in making, running, taking care of the place, and then how much TDF tokens you actually have, so how much financial capital you put. And through a big equation in all of these, you get your governance. And so what we're now doing is all the smart contracts that are basically running these, but we're also designing not only the smart contracts, but the governance in itself, because it's not enough that you've got your, I don't know how many points to vote online, but on what do you vote and how frequently? Like who decides who is stewarding at TDF next year, or like how much we spend on legal fees, or what's our budget for marketing, or what's our budget for the pool. So we're currently also designing, and that's why I say that we're going to be a DAO, but we're not fully a DAO yet. We're designing this process to decentralization and to what kind of decisions are made and when, by who. It's a lot of stuff. And yeah, I put some pictures here of TDF already operational. This is our current activity room on the left. I think it looks super cozy there. And on the right, it's the land where we also have some chilling areas. A thing about TDF is that we tend to also really like to play and to have fun. We do know how to dance and to have fun. And here's a little bit of a DJ and a beautiful disco ball in the land. Also, as I told you at the very start, TDF is and Oase villages have land regeneration at their core. The goal of Oase is to purchase as much land as we can to regenerate it and to accomplish this mission. The idea is that we can build co-living, thriving places for people, right? And the picture on the right is from 2 days ago. I was at TDF, and these are plants from our vegetable garden that we planted 2 or 3 weeks ago already. And on the right, it's the beginning of our fruit forest. Here's things that we've done in the past. Here you can see the warehouses in the bottom, as I explained, the vegetable garden, and then the fruit forest. And also, like, building on what also Roberto was saying, like, we're also tracking, for example, or trying to track the carbon sequestration with open forest protocol and Web3 technology, so that then we can also build like diversity in the way that that we generate revenue and wealth for the TDF system. Yeah, talking about generating wealth and revenue and richness for the system, something that I really particularly enjoy at TDF is that it provides a little bit for a way of living and of experimenting, like an alternative lifestyle where working and entrepreneurship and technology is also at the center. So it's not only about living off the grid and trying to be completely separated from the ecosystem, but at TDF, like, people come, we contribute to the project, and we have our own projects on the side. And yeah, we're just amazing doers, amazing builders. We have the entire architectural plans approved by the Camera, the municipality already. We are currently like launching our token next month, so that we can start building all of these. And these are some of the renders. I really like this curiosity that this is going to be a greenhouse next to one of the warehouses. And here you cannot really see it, but the idea is that we actually build this greenhouse with the windows of the current warehouses. So we're going to remove the current windows so that we can put nice new ones, and then reuse the old ones to build the greenhouse. This is an example of the renders that we'll have in our rooms, or no, this is a render of an example of a room that we want to build. The idea is to build really this like co-working space that has got a lot of like plants, and that is like a garden inside, that like it's comfortable. And we've been told very often to actually really use just nice chairs for properly sitting, and not just beautiful chairs. I particularly like the face of this guy over here. He looks very happy. I hope that I'll be as happy when TDF is done. And yeah, and I mean, lastly, I just want to say that I'm presenting TDF here, and that there's all of these being made. But there's a team behind it. There's just like, you know, people are the most important things, right next to land and soil and just like the community in general. But really, like, if there's any advice in building villages, building whatever project, is like, really, let's take care of the people that are with us. Let's reward them. Let's make them feel energized. And they're the ones that are going to believe in whatever we want to build, and they're the ones that are going to build it. So yeah, we tend to struggle sometimes and also just have a really good time together. And this is me. If you have any questions, you can email me. I will also send you the file potentially on on the chat. And if you want to see, like, if you want to know more about the TDF sale, about the TDF token purchase, you can email me. There's a link here that you'll be able to see. I will also attach the 2022 year report where you can see a little bit what we've done in the land on how we work there. And yeah, thank you. Stay tuned and visit. We're going to launch a new website very, very soon, where you'll be able to just like have the TDF experience and see how to get involved. And I think that's it for now. Any questions?
Thank you, Bea, for presenting. Hi.
Hi, Annie. So Annie is also one of the very first co-founders, one of the very first sources of TDF. She has done a lot of the social design, and she's just like, thank you, Annie.
Yeah, I'm just moving around the rooms. I'm going to all of the rooms. So it's good to see you.
Should we ask questions or can we ask here?
I guess Victor asked, what has been the biggest challenge to date? What do you see as your biggest challenge in the next 12 months?
Give us some of the dirt, because like everything is so nice and beautiful and easy.
I think like, so biggest challenges are designing for nomads. It's very beautiful, but the land is not nomadic. People come and go, and it's very hard to like continuously onboard new people and through that like build a medium long-term vision on the soil. Organizing has also been like extremely challenging, and creating domains and roles, especially because we really started with trying to build everything in a very decentralized way, but we recognized that we just needed like a core team and a center of leadership. And the transition from the centralized to leadership has just proven very exhaustive. So for example, a big advice that I have is like, it's okay to start with a small empowered team and to just listen to everyone around you, rather than trying to make everyone have a voice and then no one knows where to pick what from, you know? I think I would say that these are the two biggest challenges. I don't know, Annie, do you want to add any other?
No, you're like right on, especially what I think like what's happening now. And like if I want to answer to your question around the 12 months, it's always around like aligning the speed in different domains. So for example, like we might be so advanced in designing the token, but our legal structure cannot keep up, or so like being all the time like trying to like synchronize and make sure that we don't go too fast, or like yeah, or like maybe there's some transition in roles, like we said, like from circles to more like core team, and then we have to like communicate externally. So I think that's something that it's hard, like when you have so many domains, to keep them go in flow and at the same time and smooth.
Yeah, and something that I would also add is like what is also a bit hard, and this is like on a personal note, it's a bit like it's like managing the costs and basically the financial flows between building the land and the needs in the land, and also rewarding people. And for example, when hosting people, you know, like having to put a fee, and then we're in Portugal and we want to make it accessible to Portuguese people, or people like find it like, you know, like volunteers pay 10 euros per day, but they still find it expensive because they have to contribute. And it's a bit like there are costs to be managed, and how to like be fully transparent with how costs are running and still being capable of rewarding people, you know. So yeah, it's just a lot of many flows. I think also one of the advices that I can give to people is try to have like a finance freak right from the very start and really work on those spreadsheets. Annie is a rock star at it. So yeah, and how many people are involved. I would say we are a core team of like 5 to 20. It depends a little bit, contributing in either different scale to manage operations. And then we're around 50 members, and we've had, I don't know, around 500 people visiting in the last year. And with regards to the legal structure, I would invite you to just go to the TDF website and book a call there, and we'll explain to you more properly there, because I also don't want to be taking space from the other folks. Yeah, I don't know. Annie, do you want to say something else before we shift it to the next person, I guess?
No, the stage is yours. I don't know exactly what's the timing right now, so. And who's going next?
Yeah, if there are any other questions, Victor's going to go next. We do have one more speaker that's not here. At least I don't think so, unless anyone here represents Crypto Commons Hub. So if they're not here, we'll use the last bit of time just for y'all to have the session. And yeah, Victor, if you're ready, feel free to take it away.
But I see that there is 2 very important questions for Bea. What do you need and how can we support you? So I'd love to hear Bea answer that.
Yeah, perfect. So what we need right now is actually people and resources to support in the project part-time, especially in terms of marketing and reaching out to people. We're also looking for a gardener in case you look for one. We're also looking for a finance person, and you can also just purchase our token, like purchase the token. I'll send the presentation, really take a look at it, and book a call if you like to know more. Yeah, but people skills and token purchasers and land care. Thank you.
Cool. Thank you. Shall I start?
Yeah, go ahead.
Cool. Okay. Thanks so much for that presentation. I really love, I love the TDF project, even though it's completely different from the project I would do now. Maybe a similar project to what I would do if I was 20-something years old. And I think what that means to me, or my vision of the regenerative future, is that there's going to be a huge spectrum of projects. I mean, of course, I dream that eventually regenerative stops being a thing, because everything, it's just how we do everything. But on the way to that, I think we need a whole spectrum of projects, which means at all price points, at all levels of do-it-yourself versus it's done and catered for you. And I definitely connect with what Bea said around finance. And fortunately or unfortunately, but it's something that you have to accept. When you go into building a village, you soon discover that real estate is finance. And even at a simple do-it-yourself village, the numbers are quite big, and bigger than what we're used to. Most of us are used to dealing with, from hundreds of thousands to millions in the village that we're working on. So I've been thinking and like talking to people and learning about the village building for over 10 years. And over time, I've come to the conclusion that community building is a massive investment of time and energy. It's very beautiful, but it takes a lot. And also I realized that I really want to do it, but I would like to do it whilst making a honest living out of it, at least eventually. So the project that I'm working on is called Good Mountain, and set up the screen sharing and sorry, and yep. And the approach that we are taking is, so to speak, a Tesla approach. I don't know if everybody remembers, but Tesla started by building a quite expensive roadster, a sports car for rich people, and is making their way down the cost ladder towards something that's more mainstream. So Good Mountain, the project that we're doing in Ericeira, is also a sort of mid to high-end project, but humans are humans, everybody needs community, and at all levels of society, people are waking up to the need for regeneration. So we definitely see a need for that. So our idea is that we're building a village that will thrive for 1,000 years. Of course, 1,000 years is very much it's a provocation as much as anything else for us to think longer term. In some ways, thinking for 1,000 years makes things much easier because it's way outside of the lifespan of any of us. So clearly outside of the lifespan of our ego. Of course, it's impossible to imagine what will happen to climate and so on and so forth. But in a way, that is the point of thinking of how do we create a community in a village that's resilient, that in a way that no matter what comes, it will continue to live and thrive for the long term. So our principles, we have 3 principles along which we do everything that we do. Of course, regeneration, no need to talk more about that. Then there is the idea of flow. I don't know if you're familiar with flow. It comes from Mikhail Csikszentmihalyi. And flow is the time when you cease to exist and you're just in the moment of doing what you're doing. And then elegance, which comes from Thomas Aquinas, it's a combination of wholeness, harmony, and radiance. So the problem, everybody knows about this. I think the big change is that since COVID, remote work has been normalized, and that's freed a huge wave of people to rethink where they live. And to me, it's clear that many of those people will decide to move out of town, and many will decide to move into nature. So it's an incredible opportunity for us that have this idea, have this solution for creating the landing places for these people to act now. So yeah, more and more people, that the COVID pandemic normalized remote work is perhaps obvious, but it wouldn't have been obvious to me that so many people, it caused so many people to rethink their lives. And for many people to look at their lives and say, well, actually, I want something different, and that's causing them to change their job, change where they live, and rethink their lives. And I think many of these people are here and connecting with the regenerative movement. So we're building a playground for 22nd century living, where dreamers who do can thrive and grow and flow. So it's really this idea of course, regeneration, but regeneration can be a quite abstract and theoretical thing to explain to whether to residents or to investors. So for a while now, I've been really thinking about using the angle of wellness and health. You know, everybody or more and more people think about the food they buy, think about exercise and health. Why not think about designing a whole village for people's health and well-being? So there's 2 parts to the village. One is residential homes, and the other is a wellness resort. So there is full-time residents as well as people visiting, temporary visitors. We think that this is important because, well, the residents get the advantage of the hospitality facilities, and the visitors get through the residents to connect to the land, connect to the living community of the village. So I think this having both sides will give us give Good Mountain the balance of the flow of new people and the energy of new people coming through, as well as the stability of people that really are connected and whose lives are to be the guardians and the stewards of the land. We're in Ericeira, which, if you don't know, is in Portugal. It's one of Europe's surf hotspots, and we found a really beautiful land not far from the ocean. It's the biggest such green spot in that area. So yes, this is all of the reasons. I think, yeah, I'm sure all of you are familiar with this. I think the interesting ideas that I would invite you to take away is this angle of wellness and wellness real estate. Actually, wellness real estate is the whole thing. So if you're talking to investors, that can be a useful idea, as well as post-COVID life. Of course, everybody knows Portugal is amazing and Portugal is hot. So the people that we're inviting, who we're looking for, is thinkers, startup founders, entrepreneurs. We really see our impact being not just from the good that the village will do on the land, but from the mindset shift that these leaders living here will experience, and thus all of the work that they will do in the world. We are connecting with a number of existing communities, ICE and founders. Those are London and Europe-based startup communities, Burning Man and others. I think this is also a useful idea for village builders, because community building is very energy intensive. So if you can connect with some existing non-physical communities and invite them to use your space as their physical space or one of their physical spaces, it can really accelerate the community building process. So where we're at, we started in September 2021. We looked at a number of lands. Actually, the land that we're working on, I found 3 or 4 years ago. I tried to make a project on it. It wasn't viable, didn't have the team, but now we have the team. So we've created a Portuguese stock corporation, Whole Adventure, and we've submitted our first pre-planning, because the planning process in Portugal is multiple steps, our first pre-planning request. And this is kind of our timeline. We're looking at construction starting in 2024 and pre-sales, assuming we get the pre-planning this year and are able to raise the money to buy the mountain mid this year. So what we're building is 21 villas of different sizes, and they'll be organized in pocket neighborhoods. Pocket neighborhoods being these human scale clusters, so that it's easy to know and connect with your neighbors. Already even 20 starts to become a large number. So following the pocket neighborhood model, we've split those into smaller chunks. Then there is the wellness resort, which will have your villas, and we're also looking at extending the buildable space that we have using glamping. In general, because we're building the project as a regular commercial venture, So the real estate side, the standard real estate side, we're following all of the building regulations, and that's why it's costing us hundreds of thousands in architecture and design work. But with the amount of money that we're raising, and also being foreigners in another country, we believe that this is the right path for us. This is where we are, 10 minutes from Ericeira. It's very close to the airport and Lisbon center. This is the master plan, the current master plan of the project. There will be 2 pocket neighborhoods, the resort, events area, spa, and so on and so forth, with the idea that all of the land is regenerated and as much as possible is rewilded. We'll be planting millions of trees. It's 38 hectares of land, and our total buildability is 4,000 square meters. Legally, we're building it as a tourism project. As it turns out, the way the law works in Portugal, it's entirely possible to build. First of all, this is on this kind of natural land. A tourism project is the only thing that we can legally build, but it doesn't limit people from living there or getting mortgages on their homes, or the numbers. As Bea said, numbers are very important. So we have kind of 3 main phases of our fundraising. We have 200, almost about to close the next 100, so 300,000 of our angel round closed. Then we're raising 1.9 million to acquire the land and take it through licensing. For those that haven't done real estate development before, and I'm new to it, I come from software startups, but in real estate, there is this big magic gate of owning the land and having building permission, because at that point you have a very different kind of investor. Banks will lend you money. A very different kind of investor will talk to you. So in many ways, if you're doing a real estate development project, it's all about getting through this magic gate of owning the land and having planning permission in hand. So that's 2.3 million for us to get to that point. And then after the construction is going to be 19 million, which we will finance through pre-sales and that. This is the project, this is the financing. So we're giving, on average, we're giving the investors 2.38x returns. Yeah, this is the numbers. But of course, we're very much looking at not just the money, but the impact that we have in the world. And we see kind of 2 sides of the equation. One is regenerating the people by really creating a place where people can live their best health, wellness, and thriving. And of course, we're regenerating nature, planting trees, reducing water consumption, and all of those things. We're still figuring it out which frameworks we're going to use. And I think this is very important. We don't really have standards in the regenerative space, but it's very important to not just talk about regeneration, but also have some ability to measure the impact that we're having. It's very hard, but just because it's very hard doesn't mean we shouldn't try and do it. And I think it's the only way that we will be able to professionalize and level up and really make serious this movement of ours. There is, so we're still in the evaluation stage of which exact in this season frameworks we'll use. We're looking at One Planet Living, Natural Alpha, Regenerative Settlement, as well as working with the local university on biodiversity monitoring and other things. if anybody has ideas around evaluation frameworks and impact evaluation for regeneration, would love to have a conversation with you. So yes, as I said, 2.3 million. The land itself is fairly cheap by the Portuguese, by these kinds of, by city standards, let's say. It's 1 million. But as it turns out, we have a lot of expenses on the design and architecture to get through the magic gate of licensing. Risk. It's very important to think about risk in real estate. Anybody that's in the middle of a project now has already discovered this, because cost of construction have gone up 20–30% over the last 2–3 years. Sometimes from month to month, things will jump 15–20%. So, I mean, this is for our investors, but it's, I think, very instructive for everybody to think about real estate, especially for those of us that come from other business areas like software. Real estate moves at a very different pace and very different speed. It's entirely possible, if you're unlucky or if you don't build a good relationship with your municipality, to be delayed by half a year or even more on your planning permission. Cost overruns, all of these kinds of things. I'll answer the question as they come. Education infrastructure. So we are, because we don't have much buildability, we certainly intend to build lots of outdoor spaces for the kids from the village and from the nearby villages. But in terms of schools themselves, there is a really wonderful alternative school, just like 5–10 minutes walk from where we're building. And there is lots of other alternative schools like Brave Generation Academy for teenagers and other things developing in the area. So because we have so little space to build, I mean, 4,000 seems like a lot, but when the numbers comes out, it's really like very tight. We don't have just the building space to host a school, let alone everything else. So I think our winning strategy there is to work and support existing institutions which are in the area, of which there is quite a few. And really, because we do have a fair bit of land, 38 hectares more if we manage to connect with the land next door. My dream is to really build amazing outdoor nature playground for all of these kids to work in. So we're also looking at alternative planning scenarios and other things for how to improve the investor returns. Money isn't everything, but if the money doesn't add up, everything else becomes very hard. And I'll just breeze through the team just to give you an idea of we've just started the team. This is the team for the first phase. Nick is my CEO. He is super experienced at fundraising, which is really, really amazing, because when you need to raise a few million, it helps to know how to raise money. I think whilst many of us have resistance or negative lack of excitement or negative attitude towards money, if you're building a village, I think you have to work through that and accept it's one of the energies that need to be managed and brought to bear to build something. So I'm super grateful for him. We have a regenerative designer who's working with us from the start, Mauricio. He's based in Portugal. He works around Iberia and the world. I think this is very interesting in like, how do you organize? Because traditionally you have an architect, he designs things, and then you have a landscape designer, and then he comes in. But we really felt from the start that if we're doing a regenerative project, we need to shuffle up the stack and have a regenerative designer leading the master plan team, and the architects and landscape designers and everything else fitting into the overall regenerative design, rather than trying to squeeze in regenerative design around an architectural project. We have a lot of advisors from the startup space, but also from the real estate space. again, because we're trying to raise real estate money, we've had a rapid learning of how real estate finance works and how to create spreadsheets for it and all of this. So super grateful for the real estate consultants. Both Mo and Bill have worked on very big companies and very big projects. So it's really interesting to have their point of view and understand how money looks at real estate projects. I know many people have like a bad feeling towards money and finance, but the way I think about it is that money is quite stupid. Not that the people doing it are stupid, but as a system, it's quite stupid because everybody has to more or less follow the standard patterns. But the plus side of that is because it's quite stupid, if you figured out what the patterns of how money sees the world, then you just need to figure out how to make not all of your project, but one part of your project fit what money understands, and then you can have conversations with finance. So yeah, just a quick look through our master plan, have pocket neighborhoods, the resort, and really we're on a hill, so really thinking of how to build everything into the landscape. It's a challenge, but it creates amazing opportunities. So yeah, this is us. Home for dreamers who do. We're building it. And if anybody is interested in investing, we're looking for investors in buying a house and sharing ideas and developing a village together, because for sure, I want to build many more villages and have learned so much in this particular project, which I'm sure will make the next one much easier. No longer will I have to learn how to make bloody spreadsheets, which real estate people understand. So yeah, that's me. Who has questions or thoughts, comments, criticisms? Do I look at the chat and scroll back? Or maybe we're a small group, just unmute yourself and say something.
Victor, you need a booth at Web Summit.
Yeah.
Let's just set up a rebuild section in all of these these networks that you're tapping into. We just have to be physically there, and you're going to run across all these investors and all of the aligned people that see value there. Just do a little roadshow, set it up. I can get that connected if you can't.
Yeah, definitely. That sounds like an amazing idea.
Totally.
It's not the easiest crowd, to be honest.
Well, but I think, I mean, if that's the only crowd you ever experienced, then maybe it's not fun, but having a hard crowd once in a while is...
It's beautiful. We did it last year with our startup, and we just went there without any expectations and just talked to people and see how they react to really like decentralized ways. And like the 5 people that really got it, we're still connected to them. And the rest who didn't get it was really useful to kind of hear what works and what doesn't. My question to you, Victor, is how to, like I put it earlier, and it's like how to get involved. What are your needs right now besides financial input? I live 45 minutes north of you. I don't know if just meeting for coffee and exploring things. What are your needs?
Definitely. Let's have a coffee and explore things. We are building out the team we're going to do a syndicate raise. A syndicate raise is where instead of trying to get 20 or 50,000 or a couple million from a few people, you allow many more people to invest smaller amounts. So, and that's where we're going to really kickstart more our public communications and stuff. So there will be lots of different ways to get involved in that, from like, yeah. And I think our project is interesting if you're interested in fundraising or I mean lots of different things, but yeah, we're really trying to be very pragmatic on the financial side and yeah, figure that side out. Bart, you have your hand up?
Yeah, thank you, Victor. Nice to see what you're working on. I had no clue. Actually, I knew you were working on a project like this. It's inspiring to see how you're really coming from this real estate perspective and embracing finance. I think it's important that we learn to do these projects like that. My question around that is, well, I have kind of two-sided question. One is, what kind of people do you expect to become an investor in this project? And kind of attached to that, what is the deal for them? Is it just a loan that they give and they get a return, or is there also ownership connected to it? I'm a bit new in this space, but maybe you can tell me a bit more about how that works. What's the deal?
Good questions. I mean, I can tell you, and I think in general, it's the kind of people that get involved is pretty much all exited startup founders that like the idea, and at least half of the people because they might be interested in living there and they would like to see it happen. So that's pretty much the profile. And in terms of what they get is they get shares. We're a Portuguese stock corporation. So it's not a loan, it's you become a shareholder in the stock corporation that's developing this village. And my idea, it wasn't in there, but overall my idea is exit to community. So we build the village, and then when the last house is sold, the village owns the village and the investors are exiting.
That makes sense. And in the meantime, do they have any governance right, or is that separated?
There is standard again, corporate law, but the way we've written it is that we have different kind of shares that have most of the control or all of the control.
Cool. All right. Thank you.
That's for now. And then when we need to get, so we'll see whether we can get 500,000 or 1 million from the syndicate. And then we're probably looking towards a big real estate. I mean, not big, because for big real estate investors, this is small. You know, just to give you, the numbers are very different in real estate. Bill, who is our advisor, he was managing portfolio in the billions. And that was one of the smaller ones in his company that owns trillions of farmland around the world, right? So we're kind of looking for possibly a joint venture partner for the construction. So we're kind of fishing around to find a construction company that's interested in this space, smells an opportunity, and would like to do it together with us. Because I realized that there is, you know, massive risk and massive know-how that's needed around building a 10, 20 million development, right? I'm not going to be there, you know, supervising Portuguese or other workmen on the site, right? I wouldn't even know how to, right? Is this pipe laid right or not, you know? So there's a whole, and it has a big impact on the outcome, the financial outcome and the whole outcome of the project. So we're looking into the possibility of doing a joint venture with a developer that has the experience. They could come in with the extra money and the ability to actually build it.
Makes sense. Makes sense.
Other questions? Do you think connection with the rise of value of the state connection with? Yeah, I mean, I think definitely, you know, as the trees grow, the value will go up. And yeah, this is how do you tell the story of this? For now, we've gone from I think the wellness angle is really powerful, and I would invite lots of people building villages to invite it, because for me, it's like, how can you have healthy people if you don't have healthy nature? How can you have a healthy natural ecosystem if the people aren't happy with their lives, right? We're interconnected. So the regeneration must happen for us to be our maximum health. Other thoughts? Questions? Criticisms? Anything? Sign of life.
Well, what's your biggest concern about the project?
Well, I mean, right now we do have a concrete deadline on our thing. So we have signed a promissory contract for the land, which means when we get the pre-approval from the municipality that we can build what we want, we have 1 month to put down 850,000 euros to buy the land. So because it's kind of fun because we don't know when the municipality will come back. It might be a month, it might be 2, it's, you know, but when that, yeah, we have 2, 3, 4 months to raise the money. So I've personally never raised that much money. My co-founder has, so it's going to be an exciting sprint to make sure that we are able to raise the money on time. So that's definitely a fun bit of adrenaline to make it. And it's kind of funny, right? Because on one hand, real estate moves so slowly. On the other hand, when you need the money now. And I've talked to another friend made over the years who's developing some cool co-city projects in the UK, and it's like he had a time and he had to like spend 3 days calling up everybody just to lend him money, just to put down the money so he wouldn't lose the project. So it's kind of this interesting combination of like snail space and a gun to the head sprint. So that's the thing. And then the other one is, of course, just continuing to keep alignment within the team. It's what Bea also mentioned. I think none of us can underestimate this. And it's always a challenge, I think, in any startup environment to prioritize putting enough time in working on the business, building the alignment, having the conversations, versus just like sorting out the shit that needs to be sorted out today. So keeping the balance. And for me, it's actually very much a question, because one epiphany I had in this process is that for the project to be regenerative, we need to be doing it in a regenerative way, right? The sustainability approach of we'll just burn the shit out of all of the activists as they're trying to save the earth and they'll create a better earth. I don't believe that works, right? I think that the way we work has an impact, fundamental impact on what we create. But what does it mean to be a regenerative organization? I have some ideas, but it's an interesting question. I think an important one for all of us to grapple with.
Do you also see that as a liability, for example, the building materials that you want to choose?
To be honest, we are like, we need to buy the land and then find an architect, and then we get to the building materials. And my hope is to really find an architecture team that also knows how to build and is able to answer those questions. Because I'll be honest with you, I'm not excited about learning enough to answer that question. I appreciate it's very important, but like me personally, I love building community. I love, dreaming, I'll decorate your living room, but like I would like to find somebody who's equally excited about that question and let them run with it. So in a lot of ways, as kind of project promoters, sponsors, I see my role as making sure that all of the questions have somebody excited enough about that question that it's being looked at in depth. But there's a huge, huge number of questions. Sewerage, very, very important. I have zero interest in like learning enough to have even an intelligent opinion about it.
Yeah, but you also talked about getting a developer on board. he or she also has to be in that area as well, and also the
Of
contractors who have to build that, the building code, stuff like that. So personally, it was quite a big frustration for me, because I also came to Portugal with having in mind to use bio-based construction materials, but ending up with cement. So it's yeah, it's quite frustrating too. And you also have to move forward, like you said. So you also have something to be the cash cow for at least at the start. So yeah, I think it's quite a challenging project that you have ahead of you.
Yeah, I mean, I think all of the projects are challenging, and I think the important thing is that when you're doing a project, you choose which are the problems and challenges, which are the ones that are really important and I want to learn how to solve. I think too many projects want to be regenerative and sustainable and biomaterials and affordable and inclusive and if you try and solve all of society's problems in one project, you're pretty much guaranteed to fail because there are too many problems.
Right.
You know?
Yeah. So we now sort of take a design thinking approach, so iterative, becoming more sustainable, blah blah blah. So yeah. Yeah,
and this is the interesting thing, because in construction, in real estate, there's many things which you can't iterate easily, right? You make a plan, you got to build that. But then there is things you can, right? So I think it's about finding the path and finding the areas which are not covered by the building code and things, and doing your things there. And yeah, being really clear of what is it that your project is trying to solve.
Right. Thanks.
And for us, it's figuring out the economics, figuring out all of this, and yeah, navigating. We will navigate to the best of our ability the other questions, but also within the reality of its. I would say overall, as long as for each of us, as long as we're making a best effort, then building something, however flawed, is better than building nothing.
Agree.
Shimona, hey.
Yeah, I have a question that is this. Okay, you asked what could be a regenerative organization. This is interesting. But what could be a regenerative process within real estate planning, for example? So you also told we cannot solve all the problems, but maybe in the planning phase, in the process, maybe there could be an analysis to check how to do not make it worse, or to make it different, or to lower the impact, not to solve the problem, but to make it worse somehow. So maybe, to find a midway. So not completely regenerative, let's throw away everything and let's do something impossible, that it's not possible, okay. But maybe do something in the middle. So start to check which is the highest impact that real estate has that could be lowered. And then from there, so you're not regenerative real estate 100% upside down, but you start up inserting correction measures in the process. So this is regenerative, because when you find a desertified land, you have no magic wand and hold the trees, it starts gradually. So it could be applied the same logic, inverted, lowering the impact, and on the other side, leaving spaces for regeneration.
So
do you think this is feasible, or it's not feasible?
Let me try and speak to some of the points that I think you did try and raise. First of all, I do think we can solve all of the problems. It's just not all of them in one project at once. I think we need many different projects, each addressing whichever part of the problem space that excites them, right? We have social challenges, we have environmental challenges, building, and all of this. And I think it's okay if in a project you only focus on one slice, and even if it's not the most important problem, right? If you're passionate about new ways of creating community-based learning for children, for example. Focus on that. Build as good as you can regenerative houses, but accept that they won't be perfect. You know, focus and do really well. I think it's more useful for a project to focus on having one thing that's their core, that they're doing really well, because then everybody else can learn from it. And then we can solve all of the problems. In terms of planning, I mean, right now we're still a small project and we're not Portuguese, but in the medium long run, we need to educate the planners. I was talking once with a very wonderful woman in New Zealand who's a regenerative or is a village building consultant. And she was saying, yeah, you know, the local planning department, I took this Regenesis, the famous Regenesis course. And one of the planners in our local planning department took the course as well. So when I go and talk to her now, we have the same language. And I was like, oh my God, like, what a blessed luxury that your planning department is taking the regeneration course. That's amazing. So yeah, but I mean, we need to make that more common, and then that will make it much more feasible to have more novel solutions and so on and so forth. How are we on time? Should we continue talking? What's the thing that we are planning to do well is figure out how to do a financially viable regenerative village. And yeah, I mean, in a way, one part of that is the goal to try and take regenerative villages into the mainstream. I think it's beautiful when people are able to get together and build a village together. But I saw a statistic from Eco Village Network is that the failure rate of new villages is worse than the failure rate of startups, which is already very high. So I think we need different kinds of models. And I think that the kind of model that we're developing, a developer-led model, is one of the models. Again, I think the future should be many different models, for temporary, for long-term, built by community, you know, all kinds of different models, and that's what's going to be regenerative and resilient. Mauritius from Common Woods in the Netherlands. No, I'm not sure. Connect me.
You were at the rebuild also in the Netherlands, right?
I was, but I mean, there were many people there and I didn't connect with every single one.
So it's basically the project where the rebuild was.
The Common Woods one, the one where we were hosted.
Yeah. I mean, that project also comes from a developer perspective. And I think he has faced many of the problems that you will also encounter. So I think he could also be a valuable source of knowledge and experience. So are you connected to him already?
I can find him. I haven't been speaking with him, no.
I can send his contact to you.
And you'll connect with me, Henrik, yeah? We'll hang out. Cool.
Yeah, especially on the incorporation and business side, I think that's my thing I've been diving deep into, and that could be interesting too. I would be curious to hear how you guys are solving it, because I haven't dove into the legal context of Portugal that much, which is on my list. I know it in different countries, but here I'm still figuring it out.
I don't think it's so different, right? I mean, corporate law, you have a corporation, you have an LTD, it's more or less the same shit everywhere.
Yeah, I don't know if you're familiar with Fair Share Commons.
I know of it. To say I'm familiar with it probably be exaggeration.
Yeah. So I'm part of the team. Like, I'm working with Graham Boyd and the incubator there. And I have a friend, for example, in Brazil, and they're figured out that like steward organizations don't work in Brazil. It's legal context. and then are trying to figure out how to hack it with lawyers and like what can they do to do it similar. But I think Portugal should be very similar to most other European countries from the legal system. So I think so, because that's for me, like how do we, for me, it's a lot about relationship building and how to get equity and power and responsibility involved in order to create like long-term commitment and accountability towards projects, especially when you look that long-term, the more woven and bound relationships are also contractual. I think the more security you have in the projects. So that would be very interesting to hear how you.
It's interesting. I mean, it's definitely a necessary layer. At the same time, I'm originally from Poland, which was a different country when I was born, because it was still a socialist country. So I have a general skepticism towards the nation state, which doesn't mean that I think I'm against contracts. I think they're very much necessary. But I think if you want a 1,000-year village, it's the culture that will stay alive.
Yeah, fully with you there. And I think it's just one leverage point to support the culture to really stabilize.
Yeah. I mean, I think good contracts and good legal structure is a communication device, or part of the storytelling of how do we want to relate to this land and to each other in the village.
Thank you. I will write you, and then we meet for coffee in the next weeks.
Sounds great. All right.
And thank you all for great projects that you're moving forward. Amazing work.
Yeah, thanks for sharing, Victor. It was really inspiring.
Yeah, nice to see you again, Bart.
Always there, popping up.
Thanks, Victor. Thanks all for sticking around, and hope you have a good rest of the conference.